Hey everyone, this is Miko from the Permit Empire. I am going to go ahead and just thank you all so much for tuning into this video. I hope that everyone can hear me well. And thank you again so much for tuning in. So, of course, today, as you can see by the title, I wanted to talk about as a permit runner, where do you start? Now, I know I may have addressed this before, but I wanted to jump in. I wanted to talk a little bit about it today because I am getting this question a lot lately, right? And I think maybe because there is quite a few new subscribers to my channel, possibly. So I'm getting that question a lot lately, and I wanted to just kind of address it on an actual video, on its own video. I wanted to talk a little bit about where you should be starting. First, before I get into that, though, I wanted to take a minute and apologize about I sent out a link to everyone, right? So I sent out a link to everyone who attended the workshop. We had a session over the weekend where we did like a follow up, right? And so I did send out a link so that you can access the replay for all of those who, attended. For whoever attended that workshop, that boot camp, I did send you out a copy of that replay, which was free, of course, because it was all kind of included. I was just doing a follow up, right? But I noticed that some people paid for the follow up replay. So I've refunded you already, but I think it didn't show you perhaps that there was like a place where you put your code in. So I went back in to double check it. I took it down for a minute. I went back in making to make sure everything is as it should be. So if you got that link and you got the code, it should be fine now. Do not pay for that. If you were a part of that boot camp, that workshop, do not pay for the follow up session that was a part of the workshop for you. I was just doing a follow up with you. I wanted to check in on you, and I wanted to do it as a Zoom call, but I wanted to make that private as to just the people who attended that boot camp because, of course, we all had that same information. So I was just following up from that conversation, right? So, hey, Terry, thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, Big Sash, glad to see you in here. Hey, Robin, how you doing? How you doing? You on your way to network with investors. Oh, you do it, Robin. I am so happy to hear that, Robin. You look like you are moving and grooving. You got yourself going. So that's really good to hear. Now, okay, so like I said, I wanted to get in here just to talk about where you start. Again, I'm getting this question a lot as of late, and I understand I have a lot of new subscribers, and so I'm getting that question and I want to address it because it's a real legitimate question, right? And I don't want to overlook that question. I do want to at least give you a little insight. I want to let you know what you should be doing first, right? And it's simple. Like I said, I know I've talked about it before. Hey, Estella, I'm not sure if I am saying your name right, but hey, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad to see you in here. So I am not, I want to just jump in. I really, really want to address, just kind of how you start or where you start at. Where do you start as a permit runner? I know a lot of people have taken a course or even have taken my boot camp or whatever the case is. You may have some type of information as to what you should be doing, as to what a permit runner is, all of that good stuff. But now you're trying to take that on and you are trying to actually do that service. You want to provide that service, you want to make some money, right? So, first things first, this is where I want to tell you to start, right? This is the first thing I want to tell you to do. This is where you should start. You should start, right? You should visit your local building department. Please, that is the best place to start. And I know that it doesn't seem like it should be. There seems like there should be something more, but no. As a beginner, when you are just starting, you should visit your local building department. You should get information as to how permits are being processed at that building department. Some building departments, they're accepting and processing permits differently. Some are accepting them online, right? You have to upload your documents, all your permit applications to an online portal, or even maybe through the email. It has to be like a PDF attachment. There are different ways they're doing it. Now, some do it like that. Some have it where you actually are coming into the office and submitting physical hard copy, permit application and plans for your project, right? So some have it that way. You're coming in, and that's the normal way. That was the way it was before. Everything was that way, where you were coming in person, submitting your documents, you had your permit application, you had all of your stuff. Hey, Shotza, good to see you in here. But yeah, so that's the way it's always been. It usually was that way. You come in person, you wait in the line, you take your number, you sign up on the form. Some building departments are still accepting permits that way, right? So you want to find that out. Now, there is also a couple other ways they are accepting permits. Now, one way that I do like is they have a drop-off box at the building department. They give you an option that you don't actually have to come in and speak to someone and wait in line and sign up. You can actually, they have usually have some type of box right in front of the building department or right inside the building department where you can actually just drop your documents right into this box, right? You can drop it in there and then they will email you. Usually there's maybe like a form that you put on the front of that with your information so that they'll know who to contact with updates as it pertains to this permit. So there's different ways. Like I said, Dropbox, walking in person, which was always, kind of the way it was done, or even online or email. So these are things that you want to find out from your building department. Hey, how are you guys accepting permit applications? Do I actually have to come in? Do I need to be here? Is this something that I can upload online and submit it to you through a portal or through an email? And in a lot of cases, the building department has an online portal in which you have to sign up and get an account and register and go through that whole thing, right? But they will allow you to be able to upload documents and submit it right there on the portal, which for me is so easy because it allows you to be able to stretch your service area. You don't have to just do very local projects. You can do projects, out of your area, out of your normal service area. You can do those projects if the permits are allowed to be accepted online, via email, through the web portal, all kind of good stuff, right? So Shanta, you say in your area they're not accepting permits in person, and a lot of them are not accepting permits in person. A lot of them. I actually, like I said, I prefer that because, like, even yesterday, I have one of my clients, and they actually have a couple permit runners, but they break it up in counties. That is a larger client of mine, and so what they do is they break up their projects in counties. They break them up by counties. So they have a permit runner for, let's say, Miami-Dade County. I'm their permit runner for Broward County. And they have another, as you go up the state, they have different permit runners, right? Because it's a large, they're a very large construction company. But yesterday, one of the guys who work at the company, and I do a lot of permits with them, right? So he asked me, he goes, well, can you go up to this certain county? Can you submit permits there for me? Like, he's asking because he knows they break it up, with runners, but he's like, I prefer to just keep using you for these projects. I'm like, of course, as long as you get clearance, so that way I know I get paid, right? But as long as you get clearance, I have no problem, because guess what? Going up to that county, they accept permits online. They accept it through the online portal. So for me, I don't actually have to leave my office. I could be sitting right in front of my computer, upload documents, and send it right over. Get my permit number. Everything's going to keep moving, right? I can do it that way. But that is something that you need to find out from your local building department. Those are reasons why you need to start there first. You don't realize how important just that information alone is. That, here's the thing, even with that, right? Like, some of my clients deal with a lot of like engineering reports. Some of those reports, instead of you having to go pick them up, the reports from the engineer, because your contractor, your client may want you to do that. But instead of you having to add all of that additional in, they will email you the engineering reports. And then what do you do with that? You take those same reports and you upload them to the portal for the building department to review them, making it extremely easy. Making it extremely easy. So you could be, there's a lot of people still work their 9 to 5. Great. You could still have your 9 to 5. And then when you get home, after you eat dinner, after you walk the dog, all that good stuff, right? You can sit down and upload those documents into that online portal, making it very easy to do. It won't take so much from you that you now have to go to the engineer or go to the building department, stand in line. Hey, guess what? Now you can do it even after hours. But this is something that you need to find out from your building department. And that's one reason why it's so important to get in front of the building department and find that information out. Hey, Annetta, how you doing? Good to see you in here. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why it's really good to get that information from the building department. Reach out to your local building department. Find out, hey, how are you accepting the submissions? You want to find that out, right? Because especially if you can save yourself a trip, I'm not telling you to charge less. I'm not telling you that, because I do not charge less. I am not going to charge less Because once I go to that, let's say with the permit where my client said, can you go to this next county? I don't charge less for that permit. He knows that, full aware. He is very aware. But guess what? He does not want the headache. He just does not want to deal with it. And they've made it very clear too. Like, and a lot of my clients make it very clear. I don't want that headache. I don't want to deal with it. I don't like paperwork. I don't even want to see it. Like, please help me. This is your fee. Okay, fine. That's it. Right? Robin, you're saying you're downloading the applications to print? And you know, that's so smart to fill out as applications. Yes. So you can get familiar with them, which is very smart. I did that to myself. Very smart. And you'll find out, though, the good part about that is you'll find out a lot of the different building departments, the requirements are still about the same with that permit application. So you'll be able to, hey, if I can fill out this permit application, I can be able to fill out that permit application, right? So how do you sell yourself? How do we sell? Shots is asking. So how do we sell ourselves to the client since it's online only? You are relieving them regardless of a headache. Regardless, you're relieving them of it. I know it seems like, okay, they still want to sit down and do it. They do not. After a long day of meetings, selling clients, like they're doing all of these different things too. Believe me, the last thing they want to do is permits. They don't want to do it. I had the company that I'm telling you about, the large client that I have, they have multiple like project managers at the company, right? So I deal with a lot of them on their different projects, right? So I'm sitting down with one of the project managers. He's a recent hire. He's a contractor himself, though. Like outside of this company, he had his own business for so many years. So he is very, very familiar with construction. Like he still has his business operational. He still has it. The company themselves, they are short staffed. So they hired him on. He was their subcontractor. They hired him on as a staff contractor to do some of the projects, right? And so he called me in to have a meeting with him. He is in his 60s, right? But you know, he's good to go. I'm not saying that as like a put down. No, he's with it. He's 60. He's still on the projects. He's still working the projects. He's got a whole lot of stuff going on. But the thing he sat down with me and said to me, he goes, listen, I've been doing this for over 20 some odd years. I've been doing this for a long time. And he's like, for me, I've always had a staff. He goes, because even with that being said, I don't want to do paperwork. He's like, I'm old school. I like to keep, you know, my paperwork a certain way. So all of this online stuff, he's like, I just don't get it. He's like, in fact, I don't even want to open my laptop. He's like, I don't want to open my laptop. He's like, I got a computer here. I don't even turn it on. He's like, because I don't want to do it. And so he showed me like his folder, like his files, and he's got everything like in folders, very organized. He has everything, but he's like, I don't feel like and he literally told me, I don't feel like doing that. He was like, I've always had someone else to deal with those type of things. He's like, I don't want to do it. So he's like, so right now I'm pulling on you to help me with this because I don't want, he's like, I don't even have time to do it. He's like, this is the folder I carry. Like these are the files I carry in my truck. He's like, I don't even want to do it. So that's the thing. The contractors see it probably more valuable than we see it. They really see it as like it's super valuable. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to upload. It's just another thing for them to do, and they don't want to do it. So they'll pay you to do it. And that's how that goes, right? But again, let me go back to it. We really need to make ourselves as familiar as possible with the building department and different ordinances, how they want things submitted. Do they want one copy? Do they want 2 copies? Do they need 3 copies? Again, do they want it uploaded as a single PDF file, or do they want it broken down into different PDF files when you upload it to them? This is where we should be starting. First things first, like I know we want to look at other things such as insurance and, you know, LLCs, like all of that. Let that keep you static. Don't let that keep you in one place. No. Get familiar with your local building department, right? No problem, Shatum. Yes. But yes, get familiar with your local building department. Start there. Get familiar even with the clerks. Get familiar with those people who are there, who you'll be seeing if you're coming in person, right? Today also, right? I have so many experiences. This week, I'm telling you, it's been such a productive, like a crazy productive week for me, right? I actually feel like so good. Like I feel like I got so much accomplished. But today, right now in my area, right, And for those of you who know the area, I'm going to say all the names, right? So it's Miami Gardens Building Department, right? That was a building department for the longest that stayed to a point where you have to come in person and submit the permit. At one point, they had it where you do the drop off box, like when we started shutting down, that's when they had it to where, okay, no, you can't come in, you have to drop in the drop off box. They had it to where some of the plans, some of the projects, you could even email them over, right? Some of the small things you just upload it as a PDF and email it. But a lot of the larger projects or whatever, you had to come in person and submit those permits in person. You had to get onto the list and you had to wait. And sometimes you could find yourself there for like an hour and a half, like an extended period of time. Now, what I did like about them is they have it to where you get an alert on your phone. You can sign up on your phone. They have an app for that building department. You just sign up on your phone, put your information, and it'll tell you about how long your wait is. And it'll also alert you when it's coming close to your time to be called. So literally, you could check into the building department and you could go have lunch and then you could come back, right? But of course, now they have it to where you are coming. They stopped doing that to where you're coming in person. So now they have a new online portal system. They just adopted it a couple weeks ago. So it's new. So, there's always kinks when things are new, right? That's kind of how it goes. But I had one permit. I submitted that permit. No problems. Went through fine. Approved. Great. I just submitted a permit yesterday to them, right? So I submitted that permit. And of course, when I'm signed up with my own online portal, so it's under all my information. It's my name, it's my phone number, my email, all that stuff. So the permit that I submitted yesterday, right? It got rejected. It got kicked out because one of the PDFs I sent over for whatever reason couldn't open. But the girl at the building department, not going to say her name, she's one of the people I always talk to at the building department. Like every time I'm there, even if she's not the one helping me, like I'll go over to her window and say, "Hey girl, how you doing?" Right? Because I'm so familiar with them. I've been going in there for years now at this point, so familiar with them, right? But she saw that my permit rejected. Now I just submitted it yesterday. She saw today that they couldn't open it, and then she emailed me and said, "Hey Miko, I see that you having problems with this permit. Send me that PDF file and I'll upload it for you. I'll just do it for you," right? Hey, Black Queen. Good to see you in here from Atlanta. Yes, Georgia. Come on. Yes, you're right place, right time. That's right. That's right. Hey, Tammy, how you doing? Yes, good to see you all in here. Good to see you all in here, right? So, right? So because I had made myself so familiar with the people at the building department, she went above and beyond to help me out and say, "Hey, just send it to me." I sent it right over to her too, right? So send it right over to her. And she actually uploaded it for me. She uploaded it for me and put it back into processing for me. That's another reason why you should get familiar with them. You should be in the building department. You should be asking them, "Hey, how are you processing permits? Like, do I need an online portal? Is this an email? Do I need an authorization form to submit permits here?" That's another biggie, right? And I will go even back to the building department at Miami Gardens, right? Let me just keep talking about them since I'm talking about the authorizations, right? So even with them, right? The city of Miami Gardens requires an authorization. They require on the permit application, there's an actual spot on the permit application that says who is allowed to pick up these permits. And that's where you are, right? Now, they've changed it just a little bit, but they have a form that you have to have signed and notarized. You have to have that form signed and notarized to say that you're allowed to pull these permits or submit permits or even pick up permits on behalf of this contractor. My client, right, who I was at that time, I was doing a lot of permits for him in Miami Gardens, right? He has an employee and I couldn't go and pick, he needed his permit like really urgently. And I couldn't stop. It was during the work day and I'm doing other permits, but I couldn't stop and go down there and pick that permit up, right? He sent one of his employees to go get it because he was on the job site. He couldn't stop. And I'm telling him, "I can't come right now," right? He sent his employee and they refused him. They refused him and said either the contractor or Miko is going to have to come here and pick up this permit because there's an authorization form intact, right? And they check your license. So that's the other thing, right? So with that being said, you want to find that out. Hey, is there an authorization form needed? Does it need to be notarized? Can I pull permits on behalf of, different clients? You want to find that stuff out because that's really important. You show up to the building department, they won't allow you to submit because you're not authorized, right? Or you go there to pick something up and you have to turn back around. You've been waiting for an hour and you can't pick it up because guess what? You're not authorized, right? So you want to make sure you're finding that information out. Hey, how do you submit permits here? How is it that you accept permits, right? Online, in person, Dropbox. Okay. Do I need an authorization form to even drop off permits or pick them up? Is there something that I need to do before I get that information, right? Is there a form that I need to sign? Do you need to see a copy of my license with this signed form? Like, what is the protocol for me submitting permits on behalf of a client, right? You want to find all that stuff out, okay? You want to find out, are there upfront permit fees that will be required at the time of submission? Super important. That is very, very important, right? That's very important. Some building departments are going to require you to put an upfront fee out on a permit. Now, I do not advise you to put that fee out of your pocket, to pay that fee out of your pocket. I don't advise you that, right? Especially when you're just getting started up. I will say there are some contractors who are not good guys, but that's business. That's business. That's actual business, right? Even when you're dealing with homeowners, you're pulling permits for homeowners. What happens if they get annoyed with something that happened? Or what happens if they get angry with something you did, right? You don't know. What if they just say, I'm not paying? That's it. I'm not paying. Sue me. What happens then? Right? I had one situation where I had a contractor, and I've said this before too, but I had a situation, I had a contractor, he was doing an addition to a home. Very good guy. Like every time I met with him, he would have mangoes for me. Very nice guy, right? Very nice guy. But I was processing a permit for him, right? And he passed away. He couldn't pay me. He passed away. What would I have done? I mean, it's already a sad enough thing. I'm not going to pursue someone for money at that point. Like, you know what I mean? But he passed away. But just imagine if I would have paid those upfront fees out of pocket upfront. Who would I have gotten it from? Maybe I could have attempted to get it from the homeowner, but I don't have an agreement with the homeowner. My agreement was with the contractor. So I could possibly try to, do that route, but it's an unnecessary route to take. I also have a client who actually still owes me money, right? Found out he was starting projects and not finishing them, but taking money from his clients to do the projects, right? Not a good guy. He just wasn't. He's a businessman, but he had a business, a legitimate business as a contractor. But guess what? I still never recouped those funds from him. I didn't. Some people are just shady. So those are things you want to know up front. Am I going to, when I submit this permit, right? Am I going to have to pay an upfront fee? Because you need to tell your client that either they're going to give you an open check for that building department, or in some cases, another thing that you want to find out is, will they allow you to pay for this permit online? A lot of building departments have an online link where you can make the payments for the permits. So once you submit things to the building department, you can now forward over that link, because the building department may email it to you, right? They may email you saying, hey, payment is due. You can forward that right over to your client. Hey, I need you to make this payment for this permit so that they can process. And believe me, when I say these things, some permits are really expensive. Some permits are really expensive. Some permits get really, so you don't want to be standing there trying to pay a $12,000 upfront permit fee. Not at all. And I don't want to have wasted my time to submit this permit, driving over there, wasting my gas, all that kind of stuff. And then I get there and they're like, well, we can't take it if you don't have the $12,000 upfront permit fee for this. Pointless. So those are things you want to find out, right? You want to find that stuff out up front. But how do you get that information? Your local building department, right? You want to get familiar with them. You want to ask those questions. You want to go in there. You want to find that stuff out, right? They'll also have a listing, perhaps, of what type of permits are needed in your area, right? They'll have a listing. So this is also something that you want to find out, or something that you want to obtain. The building department will give you these things freely. They will give you this information. Sometimes on the wall, I can say there's quite a bit of different building permits, building departments here, right? And for the most part, there's usually like a wall where they have all of their permits that are needed for different projects. They have them there, or they have like a little room off to the side or whatever. But there's somewhere that you can get that information, right? And some of them will just give you a form. Hey, these are all of the type of permits that are required in our area, right? I was talking to one person one time and I was saying, hey, for those tree removals, you want to remove those trees, right? For your landscaping, you need a permit for that. In my area, to remove trees, and especially like, a lot of people are putting their little palm trees out in front. They're changing it up, and the landscaping is so cute, right? You need permits for those things in my area, right? You go to the building department, you can find that information out. Ask them, hey, do you have a listing of what type of permits are required in our area? Something you can do if you visit your local building department and get that information. Now, I do also understand that a lot of the building departments, they may be closed, like they may not allow for you to walk in, right? For the most part, our building departments here, most of them allow you to walk in. You will find like a couple that don't want you to walk in. You need an appointment. For one, you can make an appointment. That's one way to do it. Or you can also just give them a call. A lot of times in your area, the same type of things will be needed even at the other building departments. On the county level, different cities in your area, they usually need about the same type of thing, right? Usually the building department has a code that they're working off of or they're working from to determine kind of what's needed for different type of permits. And usually that's kind of regional, right? Because like here in South Florida, we deal a lot with like hurricanes. We don't deal with any snow. Like we don't have that problem. So we're not worried about snow weighing down our roofs. We're more or less worried about winds from a hurricane. So a lot of our codes are focused on that. So if you're up north, your codes may be a little different. You may not be as focused on those things. So the permits that are required may be different. What I found out, right? I found this out about, say, Texas. They don't necessarily need a permit for window and door replacement. In South Florida, if you get caught putting in one window without a permit, you are getting a fine. And sometimes those fines can get to a point where they're $500 a day. You do not want to play with that, right? But you can find that information out by going to your local building department and getting some information. So for me, that is the most important place to start. Because even from there, you can kind of determine as well, like, is this something that you'll be capable of doing, right? Let's say if you are a person who has a 9-to-5 job, but your building department only accepts permits in person, then it might be a little bit more difficult for you to do that, or you may have to figure out another strategy in order to do that, right? So this is something you definitely want to do first. You want to start there. You want to make that your first action step is to go check in with your building department, get a good conversation going with them, right? The clerks will help you out. Sometimes, I know sometimes people have bad days, but for the most part, the clerks will help you out, right? You want to go in, you want to ask them, hey, how are you guys accepting permits? What are the methods? Online, Dropbox, in person? What's the method? Hey, do I need an authorization form from a client in order to submit on their behalf? Is that something that is the case? Do I need, authorization? Right? Is there an upfront fee that's required? Do I need to go to my client first and say, hey, if I'm submitting over here in Fort Lauderdale, I'm going to need an open check from you so that I can make that upfront payment when I submit that permit, because they don't accept it. Otherwise, I'll have waited in vain because they're not going to accept that permit from you, right? And a lot of people are really, they need those permits because they can't get the project started until you got that permit, right? You want to find those things out. Those are very important things that you want to go ahead. You want to get that information right now. You want to get that information up front. Hey, what types of permits are required in our area? Do you need permits for windows here? Like I said, I just found that out about like Texas, that you don't really need permits for a window replacement. But like I said, again, here in South Florida, let them catch you installing windows without a permit on site. You have all kind of problems, right? You have all kind of problems, and we don't need all that, right? And your contract, your clients don't want all that either. So guess what? They will pay you to make sure you get them an approved permit. They will provide you the documents. They will provide you the permit applications. They will sign off on whatever they have to sign off on. And if they need to give you an open check for that building department, guess what they'll do? They'll give it to you. They'll give it to you, right? And I'm sorry, because I think I missed some of the comments here. Tammy saying, if I have absolutely no experience or clients right now, and how would you suggest I get my foot in the industry? You're in North Carolina. Oh, North Carolina, where they got all the work going on, right? They got all the work going on up there in North Carolina, right? You want to get yourself in front of your potential client. You want to reach out to people. You want to reach out to contractors. I usually do push reaching out to contractors, right? I know I really do. But you can also reach out to even homeowners who have projects going, and you can touch bases with them and let them know, hey, I can handle paperwork for you. I can get those documents submitted to the building departments. You want to get in front of your ideal client. You want to be visible as much as possible, right? You really want to get out there. I always point to social media because guess what? Most everyone is there, and maybe not everyone, but a lot of the clients that you would need for permit running, they're there. They're already trying to advertise their business on social media. Well, you might see their advertisement. Reach out to them, advertise right to them, talk to them, send them a DM. It's a good place to start with contacting clients. But I wanted to just make this video so we could talk a little bit about where you should start. So that is where I suggest you start. And we'll talk a little bit more about some other things. But yes, that is a great place for you to start. I really want you to get accustomed to being familiar with your local building department, the forms that are needed, like such as the building permit application, different forms that are needed and required for submission. That would be a great place for you to start, right? So if you have any other questions, and I'm trying to just look over here real quick before I let y'all go. Yes. All right. So if y'all have any other questions, any other comments, I'm not going to keep y'all too late. I'm already over half an hour here. But if you have any other comments, any other questions, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section and just leave them. I try to get back to as many of them as possible. Sorry that sometimes I'm a little bit late because I am super busy with work right now. I don't even know what happened, but like I think all of my clients went crazy and got a whole bunch of projects, which is a good problem to have, okay? And again, before I let you guys go, again, the follow-up session that we did over the weekend, I sent everyone an email who was a part of that, right? With the replay, please use the discount code that I have in the email to you for that. Please do not pay for that. I did refund a couple of you because I noticed that you paid, but no, please do not pay for that if you were in the follow-up session. If you were a part of that, that is a part of that. That replay is for you for free, right? That was our conversation based off of the boot camp that we did last month, right? So if you were part of that boot camp, when we sat together for a couple hours, right? And we went over permitting and we went over documents and we went over those things, right? When we went over those things, if you were a part of that conversation, if you were part of that boot camp, then I sent you the replay for the follow-up session, and that is free to you. Please do not pay for that. If you see that you're having an issue and it's making you pay for it, please send me an email. And you all have my email address because I made sure, and well, I sent you an email. So email me and tell me, but don't pay for that if you were a part of that boot camp, okay? So that replay is still there. If anyone else wants to go back and take a look at that replay, it is still there as well. But for those of you who were originally a part of that boot camp, please don't pay for the follow-up, okay? All right. So again, thank you all for tuning in. I really, really do appreciate it. If you have any comments, you have any questions, leave them below, and I look forward to chit-chatting with you later.